Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you can change the direction of your entire day, your week, and even your life. We all have moments when we feel stuck, overwhelmed, frustrated, or even powerless. And in those moments, it feels like life is happening to us instead of for us. But here's the truth: at any moment, you have the ability to snap your fingers and change your mental state. Not tomorrow, not later, immediately. And the quality of your life is determined by the state you live in. Think about it: when you're confident, powerful, and energized, do you make the same decisions as when you're doubtful, tired, or fearful? Of course not. State drives decisions, decisions drive actions, and actions shape destiny. So how do we flip that switch? How do we go from feeling stuck to unstoppable in an instant? It starts with one thing: physiology. Your body is the fastest way to change your mind. Stand up tall, roll your shoulders back, breathe deeply like you own the space you're in, move with energy, clap your hands, jump up and down if you have to. You can't feel depressed when your body is moving like a champion. Change your body and your emotions will follow. Next to focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. If you focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what you can't control, you'll feel powerless. But the moment you shift your focus to what you can control, to what's working, to what you're grateful for, your state changes instantly. Gratitude and fear cannot live in the same space. Choose gratitude and fear vanishes. Finally, language. The words you use create the emotions you live. Say, "I'm exhausted," enough times and your body will shut down. But if you say, "I'm fired up, I'm ready, I've got this," your nervous system comes alive. Speak power into existence. So right here, right now, I want you to decide, are you going to let life control your state? Or are you going to take command? You don't need years of practice. You don't need permission. You just need a decision in this moment to stand taller, breathe deeper, focus on what empowers you, and speak words that fuel your fire. Because when you change your state, you change your decisions. When you change your decisions, you change your actions. And when you change your actions, you transform your entire life. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, don't wait for someone else to rescue you. Rescue yourself. Move your body, shift your focus, change your words, and watch how quickly your world transforms. The power is in you right now. Use it. When we talk about changing your mental state instantly, the first and most powerful lever you have at your disposal is your physiology. Human beings are not just minds floating around. We are an integration of body, mind, and emotions. And the body is the gateway to shift everything else. Think about the times when you felt absolutely unstoppable, when nothing could shake you, when you were energized and confident. What was your body doing? Were you hunched over, breathing shallow, speaking softly? Of course not. You were standing tall, chest open, breathing fully, moving with certainty. That physical expression wasn't just a reflection of how you felt. It was the cause of how you felt. The body and mind are in a constant feedback loop. When your body is weak, your emotions follow. When your body is strong, powerful, and alive, your emotions rise to meet that level. Most people underestimate how fast this works. You can spend hours trying to talk yourself into a better mood or waiting for motivation to show up. But if you stand up right now, stretch your arms high above your head, take a deep breath into your lungs, and move with energy, you will feel a surge of power in seconds. That's not theory, that's biology. Your posture changes the way your nervous system fires. Your breathing determines the oxygen and chemistry in your brain. Your facial expressions send signals back to your brain about how you should feel. If you put a smile on your face, even if you didn't feel like smiling, your brain starts releasing chemicals that match that expression. If you scowl and tighten your body, your brain produces chemicals of tension, stress, and anger. Your physiology is the steering wheel of your emotions. Take someone who feels depressed. If you watch their body language, you'll see the same patterns almost every time: head down, shoulders slump, shallow breathing, slow movement, a flat or downward gaze. And now imagine telling that same person to stand up straight, to jump up and down, to breathe deeply, to shake out their arms, to shout something powerful at the top of their lungs. It would be impossible to hold on to the same level of sadness in that state. Their physiology has shifted, and with it, their state of mind. The truth is, you cannot feel weak in a strong body position. You cannot feel defeated if you are breathing like a victor. You cannot feel hopeless if your body is vibrating with energy and life. Athletes know this instinctively. Before they compete, they don't slump in a chair telling themselves how tired they are. They pace, they jump, they breathe with intensity, they pump their fists, they use their bodies to generate peak states. That's why the warm up is so much more than stretching muscles. It's priming the nervous system for performance. Speakers and performers do the same thing backstage. They don't just walk out cold. They move, they shake their bodies, they bounce, they clap, and they generate physical energy so that when they step on stage, their mental and emotional state is aligned with power. You can do the same thing in your everyday life. Before an important conversation, before making a big decision, before stepping into a challenge, prime your physiology. Move in a way that makes your brain say, this person is alive, strong, and ready. That shift will carry over into your words, your decisions, and your results. What's amazing is that you don't need special equipment. You don't need a gym. You don't need anything outside yourself to make this work. Your body is with you every single moment, and it responds instantly to the way you use it. Something as simple as changing the pace of your walk, lifting your chin, expanding your chest, or even clapping your hands can ignite a new level of energy. Try walking slowly, dragging your feet, and keeping your eyes on the ground. You'll feel your mood drop within moments. Now try walking fast, swinging your arms, breathing with strength, eyes forward. You'll feel alert, capable, and in control. Nothing in your external world changed, but your internal world transformed because you changed your physiology. Think about the times when you've been stuck in a cycle of overthinking. You sit, you stew, you analyze, and the more you stay frozen in that position, the more trapped you feel. But if you get up, go for a run, dance to music, or even do a set of push-ups, suddenly your brain clears. Why? Because the movement shifted your chemistry, and the chemistry shifted your state. That is why people say they get their best ideas while exercising, walking, or moving. The body unlocks the mind. Children are masters of this. Watch a child who is upset one moment and then running around laughing the next. Their emotions shift on a dime because they don't stay locked in one physiology. They cry, they stomp, and then they shake it off and start playing again. Adults tend to freeze their bodies, sit still, hold tension, and as a result, they freeze their states. We think we're logical creatures, but in reality, we are emotional creatures that justify our states with logic. And the fastest way to change that emotional state is to move differently, breathe differently, carry ourselves differently. If you've ever noticed, the most successful and magnetic people in any room have a certain energy about them. It's not just what they say, it's how they move, how they use their body, the intensity in their eyes, the firmness of their handshake, the resonance of their voice. That presence is a physiological choice. They've trained themselves to hold their body in ways that communicate certainty and power. And because physiology and psychology are inseparable, their mind follows that lead. You can adopt the same strategies by asking yourself, if I were confident right now, how would I stand? How would I breathe? How would I move my hands? How would I speak? Then do it. Don't wait to feel confident first. Move like it, and the feeling will come. It's important to understand that this isn't about faking anything. This isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about tapping into the version of yourself that already exists, the version that is capable, strong, and resilient, and accessing it through the doorway of your body. Too many people, they need to solve every problem in their head before they can feel better. But the body doesn't wait. The body changes instantly, and the emotions follow. So when you learn to take control of your physiology, you are taking control of the fastest, most direct path to power. The best part is that this practice compounds. The more often you change your state through physiology, the more natural it becomes. Soon, instead of spiraling down into disempowering states, you'll find yourself breaking the pattern quickly by standing taller, breathing deeply, and moving with purpose. You'll catch yourself before the downward spiral begins. You'll feel the shift in seconds because your body will already know what to do. This is the foundation of energy, confidence, and resilience. It is the master key to changing not only how you feel in a moment, but also how you live each day, how you approach challenges, and how you create results in your life. Focus is the force that shapes your reality. At any given moment, there are 1,000 things happening around you, but your brain can only process a small fraction of it. What you choose to focus on determines what you experience. Two people can live through the same situation and come out with completely different emotions, not because the circumstances were different, but because their focus was. If you constantly focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what's out of your control, you will feel drained, defeated, and stuck. If instead you focus on what you have, what's working, and what you can influence, you feel energized, capable, and inspired. This is why they say where focus goes, energy flows. Your attention is like sunlight, and wherever you direct it, things grow. Think about your daily life. You wake up in the morning, and the first thing you focus on might be the long list of tasks ahead, the stress at work, or the problems waiting for you. Immediately, your energy drops, your shoulders slump, your mood shifts. You haven't even stepped out of bed, but your day already feels heavy. Now imagine if instead, when you woke up, you focused on 3 things you were grateful for, 3 things you were excited about, or 3 ways you could grow today. Your body would feel different. You'd move differently. You'd speak differently. You'd make better decisions. The external world hasn't changed at all, but because your focus changed, your inner world transformed. And that is the power of directing focus deliberately rather than letting it wander wherever your fears or distractions want to take it. Most people don't realize that focus is a habit. They think their emotions just happen to them, but in truth, they are the result of repeated focus patterns. If your mind is trained to scan for what could go wrong, you will always find it, because the brain is like a heat-seeking missile searching for confirmation of what it expects. But if you train your mind to scan for what could go right, to notice opportunities, to find reasons to be grateful, you will find those too. The human nervous system is biased to protect us from danger, which means our default is often to focus on threats, problems, and lack. That's useful for survival, but it's terrible for happiness. To rise above survival mode, you must consciously take control of your focus. Consider this. If you are walking through a crowded street and you decide to focus only on people wearing the color red, suddenly it will seem like the entire world is wearing red. It was always there, but you never noticed until you chose to focus on it. The same principle applies to your life. If you decide to focus on setbacks, failures, and limitations, they will dominate your experience. If you decide to focus on progress, wins, and possibilities, those will dominate instead. What you consistently focus on becomes your filter for reality. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are choosing to filter it. This is why 2 people in the exact same situation can feel completely opposite emotions. Take a business setback, for example, and one person focuses on the loss, the embarrassment, the fear of what others will think, and they spiral into doubt. Another person in the same setback focuses on the lessons, the chance to rebuild stronger, the opportunity to grow, and they rise with determination. The event is the same, but the focus creates a different experience, and that different experience produces different actions, which lead to different results. Focus is the invisible hand guiding your future, even in relationships. Focus determines connection. If you constantly focus on your partner's flaws, the small things they forget, or the habits that annoy you, your relationship will feel heavy and draining. If instead you focus on their strengths, the little things they do right, the qualities that made you fall in love in the first place, your relationship will feel alive and full of gratitude. What you focus on in others is what you feel about them. The same applies to yourself. If you focus on your shortcomings, your doubts, and your past mistakes, you will feel inadequate. If you focus on your strengths, your progress, and the possibilities ahead, you will feel empowered. Focus creates feelings, and feelings drive behavior. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is moving your focus from problems to solutions. Problems scream for attention, but focusing on them alone doesn't solve them, it magnifies them. The more you focus on the problem, the bigger it feels, the more overwhelming it becomes. But the moment you redirect your focus to solutions, your brain starts working differently. It shifts from fear into creativity. It begins asking better questions. How can I use this? What can I learn from this? What is one step I can take right now? Those questions direct your focus toward answers, and with answers comes momentum. People who thrive aren't those who never have problems. They're the ones who discipline their focus to stay on solutions long enough to create results. Focus also influences the energy you bring into every environment. Imagine walking into a room full of people and focusing on how nervous you feel, how people might be judging you, how you don't belong. Your body tightens, your voice lowers, your presence shrinks. Now imagine walking into the same room, focusing on how much fun you can have, how curious you are about the people there, and how you can contribute value. Suddenly your body is relaxed, your smile is genuine, and your presence expands. Nothing about the room changed. The only difference was your focus. And because your focus changed, your energy changed. And because your energy changed, the way people responded to you changed. This creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond that single moment. Another aspect of focus is time. Some people live constantly focused on the past, reliving mistakes, regrets, and painful experiences, and as a result, they carry yesterday's weight into today. Others live focused only on the future, worried about what might happen, what could go wrong, or what they still haven't achieved. Both patterns rob them of the present moment, which is the only place life is actually lived. The key is to learn how to focus on the present while drawing strength from the past and inspiration from the future. You can use the past as a reference, not a residence. You can use the future as a compass, not a cage. But the present is where your power lies, and focus is what keeps you there. Training focus requires practice. Meditation is one way, but so is asking intentional questions throughout the day. What am I grateful for right now? What can I learn from this? What is great about this situation that I'm not seeing yet? How can I use this to become stronger? Each of these questions directs your focus away from fear and lack and toward possibility and growth. The quality of your life is equal to the quality of the questions you consistently ask yourself, because those questions direct your focus, and your focus directs your experience. If you want to elevate your life, you must elevate your focus. You cannot afford to leave it to chance because the world is constantly competing for it. Advertisements, notifications, distractions, they all want to hijack your attention. If you don't decide what to focus on, something else will decide for you, and it won't always be in your best interest. That's why focus is both a skill and a discipline. It's the muscle you strengthen every time you pull your attention back to what truly matters, every time you choose gratitude over complaint, opportunity over obstacles, solutions over problems. And the stronger that muscle becomes, and the more powerful your state becomes, because where focus goes, energy flows. Language is the code that programs your mind and your emotions. Every word you speak carries energy, meaning, and impact. The way you describe your experiences to yourself and others shapes how you feel about them, and how you feel influences what you do. When you repeatedly use words of limitation, weakness, or negativity, your nervous system responds by creating emotions that match those words. When you use words of strength, empowerment, and possibility, your body and mind respond by producing energy, confidence, and drive. The difference between I'm exhausted and I need to recharge, between I failed and I learned, between I'm hopeless and I'm figuring this out, is not just semantics. It's the difference between feeling stuck and feeling most people don't realize how much their everyday vocabulary is programming their emotional state. Someone says, I'm stressed, and their body tightens, their breathing shallows, and their mind narrows. Another person in the same situation might say, I'm challenged, or I'm activated, and instead of shrinking, they rise. The words you choose create a story, and your story creates your state. If you tell yourself, I can't handle this, your body shuts down. If you tell yourself, I'll find a way, your body opens up. The external situation doesn't determine your outcome. Your internal language does. Language is not just a tool for communication, it's a tool for creation. Every time you describe your world, you're creating the frame through which you experience it. Think of the last time you were angry. Chances are you were using strong, charged words in your head or out loud. You didn't say, I'm a little inconvenienced. You probably said, I'm furious, I'm livid, I can't believe this. Those words amplified your emotional state. Now imagine if in that same moment you had softened the language. I'm a little annoyed, but I can handle it. The intensity of your anger would have dropped immediately. The power of words is that they can escalate or de-escalate emotions in seconds. They can turn fear into excitement simply by changing I'm terrified into I'm thrilled. The physiological response is almost identical. Your heart races, your palms sweat, but the language you attach to it determines whether you feel fear or anticipation. Your brain is constantly listening to the words you use. If you declare, I'm broken, your subconscious begins finding evidence to support that statement. If you declare, I'm growing, your subconscious begins looking for proof of that growth. Language shapes focus, and focus shapes reality. This is why affirmations and incantations can be so powerful when used with intensity and repetition. Saying, I am strong, I am capable, I am resilient with full voice and energy doesn't just sound good. It reprograms your nervous system to believe and embody those truths. At first, it may feel forced, but the more often you repeat empowering language, the more your brain wires it as a new reality. Consider how different cultures use language around emotions. In some languages, there aren't even words for certain negative states, and people report experiencing them less frequently. In others, there are many variations of words for love, joy, or connection, and people express and feel those emotions more richly. Language expands or contracts the emotional palette available to you. If your vocabulary for negative states is wide, but your vocabulary for positive states is small, your life will feel more negative than it really is. By consciously expanding the words you use to describe empowerment, gratitude, and strength, you expand your capacity to feel them. It's also important to pay attention to metaphor. The metaphors you use are powerful shapers of your experience. If you say life is a battle, then every day will feel like a fight. If you say life is a game, you'll approach challenges with playfulness. If you say life is a gift, you'll feel gratitude every time you wake up. The metaphor is the lens through which you interpret reality. Change the metaphor and you change the meaning, and when meaning changes, emotions follow. Someone who says, this is the end of the road feels despair. Someone who says, this is a new chapter feels hope. The situation might be identical, but the language creates the story, and the story creates the state. Think about relationships again. If you constantly say, we're falling apart, your mind looks for evidence to confirm that belief. If you say, we're growing together, even through challenges, your mind looks for evidence to support that. Words become self-fulfilling prophecies. They shape not only how you feel, but how you act. And those actions create the outcomes you live. If you tell a child you're lazy enough times, they'll begin to act lazy. If you tell them you're full of potential, they'll begin to act in alignment with that belief. The same principle applies to the words you feed yourself daily. When you're facing difficulty, pay attention to the labels you're attaching to it. Calling it a disaster shuts down your creativity. Calling it a challenge opens your mind to solutions. Calling it the worst day ever drains your energy. Calling it a tough moment you'll overcome gives you strength. Language is not passive, it's directive. It tells your brain what to do, how to feel, and where to focus. By shifting your words, you shift your instructions to your subconscious, and your subconscious responds accordingly. One of the simplest practices to elevate your state through language is to downgrade the intensity of your negative words and upgrade the intensity of your positive words. Instead of saying, I'm devastated, you might say, I'm a little disappointed. The situation is the same, but the emotional load is lighter. On the other side, instead of saying, I'm fine, when something good happens, you can say, I'm absolutely ecstatic, I'm over the moon. By upgrading your language for positive states, you amplify your joy, and by downgrading your language for negative states, you reduce your suffering. This practice alone can shift the balance of your emotional life dramatically. Language doesn't just affect your emotions in the moment, it programs your identity. Every time you say, I'm not good at this, you reinforce an identity of incompetence. Every time you say, I'm learning this, you reinforce an identity of growth. Your identity is built on repeated words. Say something often enough, and it becomes not just what you do, but who you believe you are. This is why it's so critical to guard the words you use when describing yourself. If you wouldn't allow someone else to speak to you with belittling or destructive words, why would you allow yourself to? Speak about yourself in a way that empowers the version of you that you want to become. The conversations you have with others also reinforce your own internal state. If you spend your time speaking negatively, complaining, or gossiping, your nervous system stays locked in a negative loop. If you speak words of encouragement, possibility, and gratitude, not only do you lift others, you lift yourself. Words are contagious. The language you choose spreads energy into every environment you enter, and that energy comes back to you multiplied. That's why leaders who use empowering language inspire action, while those who use fear-based language spread doubt. You can lead yourself and others to higher ground simply by elevating your language. Even silence carries an implied language. The absence of words is filled with the unspoken dialogue you run in your mind. That inner dialogue can either be a critic that tears you down or a coach that lifts you up. The words you repeat in your head when no one is listening are perhaps the most important of all. If you catch yourself repeating destructive words, interrupt them and replace them with empowering ones. It takes practice, but over time your internal language becomes the most powerful tool for creating a state of confidence, gratitude, and strength. Decision is the ultimate power when it comes to changing your state, because at the core of every emotion you feel, there is a choice being made, whether consciously or unconsciously. People often believe their state is something that happens to them, that they are victims of whatever circumstance or environment they find themselves in. But the truth is, your state is a decision you make in the moment. The instant you decide to shift, the instant you decide that enough is enough, your emotions and actions can change. Decision doesn't require time, it requires commitment. One powerful decision in a single moment can rewrite the course of your day, your relationships, your career, even your entire life. Think about the word decision itself. It comes from the Latin root decidere, which means to cut off. A real decision means cutting off any other possibility except the one you've chosen. Most people don't make real decisions, they make preferences. They say things like, I'd like to feel better, or I should be more positive, but they haven't decided. When you make a true decision, there's a finality to it, a firmness that says, this is who I am now, and there's no going back. That firmness instantly changes your mental state because your brain recognizes there's no more debate, no more hesitation, only action moving forward. Every transformation begins with a decision. The decision to rise, the decision to stop tolerating less than you deserve, the decision to live in a state of power instead of weakness. And that decision can be made in an instant. You don't need months of preparation or years of study to change how you feel. You can simply decide in this moment to shift your focus, change your body, use different language, and embody a new state The challenge is that many people wait for external circumstances to force them into a decision. They wait until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. But the most powerful individuals are the ones who don't wait for outside forces. They decide in advance, they choose deliberately, they command their own state instead of reacting to the world around them. When you look at people who have made massive changes in their lives, it always starts with that moment of decision. The moment someone decides to stop smoking, to start their business, to leave a toxic relationship, to lose weight, to take control of their future. Before the results, before the action, there was a decision. Without it, nothing changes. With it, everything changes. And it's not just about big life decisions. Every day is filled with micro decisions that determine your state. Do you decide to see this challenge as a burden or an opportunity? Do you decide to let that person's comment ruin your day or to let it slide off your back? Do you decide to dwell on what you can't control or to act on what you can? Every small decision is like a vote for the kind of state you want to live in. And over time, those votes accumulate into the life you create. That the beauty of decision is that it doesn't require perfect circumstances. You can be in the middle of chaos, stress, or adversity and still decide to shift. The outside world doesn't need to cooperate for you to make an internal choice. Imagine being in traffic and deciding, I refuse to let this steal my peace. Imagine facing rejection and deciding, I will grow from this instead of shrinking. Imagine failing and deciding, this is feedback, not the end. Each of those moments is a decision, and each decision creates a new state. The external event doesn't control you because you've already taken command inside yourself. That is the essence of freedom, the ability to choose your internal state regardless of external circumstances. A decision is also a declaration of identity. When you decide to be confident, you are not just trying to feel confident, you are declaring, this is who I am now. Identity is one of the strongest forces in the human psyche, and decisions shape identity. If you've decided you're someone who always finds a way, then even in the toughest circumstances, you will live into that identity. If you've decided you're someone who is disciplined, you won't debate every morning whether or not to follow through. You'll simply do it because it's who you are. The decision carves out the identity, and the identity maintains the state. That's why a true decision is so much more powerful than willpower. Willpower fluctuates, but identity is consistent. Once you've decided, your state follows the decision automatically. Another layer to understand is that indecision is also a decision. Choosing not to choose is still shaping your state, usually into one of uncertainty, hesitation, and weakness. The longer you linger in indecision, the more disempowered you feel. Your nervous system craves clarity, and clarity comes from deciding. Even if the decision isn't perfect, making one gives you momentum, and momentum shifts your state. Think of the times when you finally made a choice after weeks of delay. The relief, the energy, the clarity that flooded you came not because everything was solved, but because you had committed. Commitment is energizing. Indecision is draining. That's why the fastest way to change your state is to stop hesitating and decide right now who you are going to be in this moment. It's also important to note that decisions are reinforced by action. You can't just decide in your head and then do nothing. The act of decision must be backed by movement, even if it's small. If you decide to be bold, you must take one bold action right away to prove to your nervous system that the decision is real. Otherwise, your mind will label it as a wish rather than a commitment. The moment you decide and then act, your state shifts permanently because the action locks in the decision. This is why rituals can be powerful. When you pair a decision with a consistent action, such as speaking a mantra, standing tall, moving your body, or practicing gratitude, your nervous system associates the decision with a physical anchor. Over time, the state becomes automatic because the decision has been hardwired through repeated action. Decisions also create momentum over the long term. One decision may change your state in a moment, but repeated decisions build a new standard for your life. Standards are nothing more than decisions you've made about what you won't tolerate. If you've decided you won't tolerate negativity, you'll shift out of it quickly whenever it arises. If you've decided you won't tolerate excuses, you'll push yourself into action even when it's hard. If you've decided you won't tolerate being treated poorly, you'll walk away from people who disrespect you. Those standards raise your state permanently because they eliminate entire categories of disempowering options. The stronger your standards and the more consistently powerful your state will be, at the end of the day, decision is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. You can read all the strategies, learn all the techniques, and wait for the perfect moment, but none of it matters until you decide. And the decision isn't something you wait for, it's something you make. Right now, you can decide to stand taller, to breathe deeper, to focus differently, to speak more empowering words, to embody the state that serves you instead of the state that drains you. Every moment is a chance to decide again, to cut off the old story and step into a new one. The power doesn't lie in the circumstance or in other people. It lies in the moment you decide. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe